Oh.
iPhone.
546-9699.
Suspiciously like the phone number.
Just like.
Just like what's over there.
No secret.
But once you know what the once you know what the trick is, you got it. It's the phone number, the Wi-Fi password.
The public one.
Oh, you got the phone number.
Oh, well, tell us the secret password
No,
too.
you don't get the secret password. No.
All right, wait, we got to admit.
It's the same handout that was on the computer this afternoon.
Yeah.
All right, so we're a little delayed. Let me do this. All right, we've got the agenda up. For you guys in the audience, just wave. Can you hear us? The audio is okay? Perfect. Okay.
Oh, we have people online.
A couple people on the Zoom. Let's see. Let's call this regular meeting of the Canterbury Board of Finance to order. We've got Matt. It's been a while. Jason, Joy, and Mike, and we'll ask Jeanette, please sit, please, tonight. Joy Bissonette is not here, but we'll do minutes off of the recording, which should be posted. All right, let's see.
Which one is it now?
7:04.
Always got flu, so we.
7:04. Got it.
Here,
All right. And we'll do Pledge of Allegiance. It's over there behind you, Chris. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've got some minutes to approve.
Cross-reference them with my notes, and yes, they are accurate as presented in draft.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a different share. One sec.
Well, if Jeanette says they're right,
Share all
I didn't have
windows.
I'm good.
Right down to
There is, I believe I'm sharing the minutes there. Yes, this is the February 12th meeting minutes. We did not meet in March.
is canceled.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the February 2025 minutes as presented in draft form.
Jeanette made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jason seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Anybody? No. Everybody said aye. All right, let's go to our next item. We've got some correspondence. Did you get your high school policy, Jeanette?
Yes, I did. I have comments on it, but I did get it. Yes, thank you.
Do we want to hold on some comments and put it as an agenda item for a future meeting?
Oh,
Or,
no, I think it's pertinent. Do you want me just?
okay, yeah, why don't we just take the question and we'll see. We'll go through these items.
Okay.
correspondence.
Thank you. It's very comprehensive. My question is, you've taken care of our sending schools to the high school and how you're gonna handle payments and maximums and everything. They are now talking about going to a voucher system for our elementary school. Don't look at me like you don't understand that, but
Who's they,
State
Jeanette?
level?
they, no, government level, administration, Washington,
Federal.
federal level.
Oh, so multiple levels above
Yeah, but
us.
they're-
Department of Education's going away.
Okay.
They've also put out the feelers that they want to go to a full voucher system, including paying people that homeschool.
Okay.
Using vouchers for that. So I would like to see that you folks draft some sort of parameters of what you would allow for homeschooling, providing a course level books, something to that maximum, because you could have a parent who has 3 kids in school that says, I'm gonna homeschool, and look, I get $10,000.
Is there any legislation, has any legislation been proposed to draft this?
Yeah,
This is-
and that would be dependent upon obviously state, yeah, yeah.
It's,
No, they haven't.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if
That's a lot
there
of
is
work.
legislation, it will literally come out and say, these are the parameters, this is what you have to
Okay,
do by law.
but then instead of doing it by letting them dictate it, I'd like to see our town school boards take control of what parameters they put on, which could supersede it. So I'm just putting out the word like I do with the high schools, and you guys got your policy in place, which is great, is that you have homeschool offerings and also transportation offerings. You know, voucher system that my kid can go to Hartford, now do we have to transport? You've got to take what you did in the high school level and bring it down into the elementary level so that the Board of Finance is not hit with $82,000 more because we had to transport kids that are on vouchers.
So
that's a lot.
there's no foundation, right, for me to build that off of,
Yeah.
because just the closing of Department of Ed, right?
But what about the leader of the department Ed's own words?
In my opinion, my professional opinion, non-biased opinion, the closing of the Department of Ed is gonna be tied up in court at the federal level and state level for years, and I can't predict what that's gonna look like. Voucher systems were tried in the early 2000s, didn't get a lot of traction. I can't predict or write a policy based on such unknown variables.
And even if it makes it through, it's gonna take the state years to set up their own.
Correct.
It's just like cell phone policy, like we were discussing doing a cell phone policy, and then we were like, well, the state's gonna dictate the parameters of that
Yeah.
policy. So it doesn't make sense to come up with your own policy, take all that time, and then they're just gonna come back and say, actually, this is how you're gonna do things.
And anybody can homeschool now, it's just on their dime.
Do you have that in writing
Yes,
in your policy?
yes,
Then that covers what I just asked, that it's on your dime.
yes.
Was that in the doc you had sent?
No.
Chris?
Because that's a different, that's a homeschool.
But like, if the
Got
government
it.
comes back and says that we have to pay them, we don't trump state and federal level laws.
Yeah.
We have to follow them.
I would need. some
I
kind
would
of
just like to
guidance,
see us
yeah.
proactive, and I've said that for all along. So in years to come, when you've got faced with those bills because nothing was put down, I'll be at your back. I'll be in your face, I should say.
Well, you probably-
I won't be at your back.
Probably won't be in my face, because by the time that court gets.
But Chris,
I understand what you're saying.
okay,
Yeah.
good, because I keep hearing from you that, oh, it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen.
No,
We've gotta wait till they do it, gotta have. I'd like us to be proactive, because from the Board of Finances, we can get hit really big time.
Correct, but the
Right.
answer is there's so many unknown variables at the federal
So-
and the state level on so many things that I can't, my job is to give you the best budget and provide the best school system based on what I know and what I have available in front of me.
Okay, and that's what we're doing now.
Yep,
But
and I can't, it's
with the
it's-
flag,
very hard for me to project what would possibly happen with the Department of Ed, the revenue streams from the feds that are already in law, how that gets tangled up. Connecticut, how many umpteen other states are countersuing? I'm not a lawyer. I don't know by the time it gets to Canterbury, Connecticut, what that looks like.
but there's a lot of things that can happen in the meantime while
Correct.
those cases go on. If you don't have an injunction placed on the removing of your title money, then you're screwed.
Correct.
Because it's pulled back, and then, oh, well, 3 years from now, when the suits go through, maybe we'll put some of it back. But that's why I wanted to be proactive, instead of sitting there on the night that they dictate it, saying, oh my God, what are we gonna do? At least it could be conversations in your less busy time of year to
Agreed.
do something like that.
Agreed, and that's so, the homeschooling pieces in their vouchers tried, and teacher performance, a lot of things were tried in the early 2000s under, No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top, and didn't get a lot of traction, for a lot of different reasons. I don't know, and my job is to play the card, the hand of cards I'm dealt at the particular time. I can maybe project, but I would not a lot of probability on what will happen at the federal level.
Okay, I'm just putting my words out there so that they're floating in the air in the record. Thank you, Chris.
Um, yeah, Mike,
Where's Mike?
It's all right, I didn't know.
Mike, I'm sorry. Sorry, you didn't know he was Matt.
We got the municipal aid estimates from CCM. I plugged it into the worksheet as estimates. This, I'll pull that up. Almost all the same, except the governor proposed for fiscal year 26, ECS is down 125 grand, which matches what you guys were expecting to. I don't know if it'll change or not,
That's another variable.
An unknown.
Yep.
The
but this
word-
is the law right now.
That's as written in the budget.
Right.
The word coming from Hartford, as usual, is that most municipalities will be held harmless on a lot of those cuts that were proposed in the governor's budget.
Hmm.
It's the same thing each year. He always.
And I think we've been through that the last couple where,
5, 6, 8, 10 years. Yep.
but we
same.
budget on this number, the number that we have,
Yeah.
right?
There was actually a push to go the other way, to go fully funded, right? And then the whole harmless is the 4 million, whatever.
Yep.
The proposed cuts is the 3.8 million.
Yep.
And there was a push, there was this going on with the fully funded ECS or more funded ECS, so.
Mhm. Okay. All right, and then we have the spending cap, which, Chris, is this new? Or is it just that,
Comes up that comes
it looks
up
like it's
every
been
year.
around for a while?
Yeah,
We
it
just,
has been, yeah, and they hold back if you go above a certain amount, and I think, what's it, 2.5%?
so it's 2.5 or the rate of inflation,
Yeah.
and if this is OP, I guess. PM.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Percent is what so it appears that, and you're saying,
I don't think we ever come close to it, but it's been flow.
chance, above that amount. So if we are $100 over 3.31% for total budget, for total appropriations, then they're gonna hold back 50 in
That's
grants.
combined school, CIP and. health.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
so. I believe it's the whole kit and
The
caboodle.
whole budget.
Mhm.
Was general fund and education.
So maybe it doesn't include CIP. I don't know.
It says general fund.
But I think we should be
Some towns
keeping this
don't
in
have-
mind.
Some towns don't have a CapEx budget, we do,
Mhm.
so I would include CIP
Yeah.
in that, it does the whole
The three
package.
of them.
Yeah. 'Cause that's our whole budgeted amount that we vote on, the three together.
Yep. So just something to keep in mind of. And then we have the updated grand list from the assessor. Hopefully everybody took a look at that. Where'd I put that? This one. 39.05% increase from prior year. So we went from a mill or being, 400 something thousand per mill to 600 something thousand per mill. You have it there.
Yeah.
I think she noted that cars went down.
Yeah.
They implemented perhaps the new, the new way to
They implemented. it.
assess
We-
them.
The Board of Selectmen voted, we're actually assessing at the higher level than the
Mhm.
lower level, because we couldn't afford to take the hit on that. If we took the hit on the vehicles, we would just have to pass it along to the houses.
Got it.
So if that was a choice that was up to the municipalities to make, the assessor, urged us to go for the higher level, which we did. What we're looking at, and, with this 39% increase, and I'll just put it out there, food for thought in this whole process as we work through the budgeting, is that our mill rate is gonna have to come down significantly, because most people are seeing a
Well, 40% increase.
$100,000 plus increase
Yeah.
on their assessed value. So, yep, so that's something that we're gonna have to strive and work together on, is to bring that mill rate down. And I tell most people, or everyone I talk to, it's not an exact science, but we do our best.
No, but you've got to take your mill rate and assess it with the mill rate now, so our
Yeah.
Let me,
23 mill rate.
I actually did a little bit of early math on this.
Well, 19, and that's where we start with.
The
our budget.
the
You don't
worksheet,
go to 22 because you're bringing it down.
Oh,
You
that's
start
right.
at
No,
19.
no, it's significant. We should be at about. You come
I
up with
do.
your
I'm gonna
number,
about to
you
tell
should be
you.
at about-
I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
So if you go to the smallest 100th of a percent, which whatever,
You
like,
do.
and you don't go negative, but just slightly above zero revenue. So slight increase in revenue, I don't know, $1,000 or
Yeah.
something. 16.55 is the
Okay, that's-
equivalent
that's
mill.
our- That's our basis. Okay.
But that is zero
Right.
these budgets are coming in at 3% or whatever. So that is the rock bottom number, I would think. We need to see where we can fund from there. But you'd be surprised if you go from 16.5 to 17 or 18, you get $1 million in the budget.
With this bill, yes.
You pick up $1 million. And so I want to see the unassigned, the audited
Yeah, when that.
fund
comes-
balance as soon as possible,
Yeah, that
because we're gonna need
gives
to
us
see
the-
that.
That gives us a number we need to work with, yeah. But
We've
yeah,
taken a
there-
good bit of money from that lately. We did have the additional appropriation, which some monies came in for, but I think we're gonna have this sort of dead spot where we took it out, but then it hasn't come back in the audit or something. And so I'm just cautious of that. If we zero budgeted revenue-wise, it's 23 to 16.5 roughly, 16.55. That's a big drop.
Significant,
But
although
it's
most
not-
people's bills will remain about the
remain-
same.
That's right.
Right, steady.
That's right.
But it's significant.
That is a
drop in-
significant drop in the mill
in the
rate
mill rate.
due to a significant increase in the grand list.
Yeah.
But it would drop your mill rate, but people would still be paying
paying
a
about the
zero
same.
increase, but if your
Right.
if your assessment went up, you're paying more.
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, not unless you added on or bought a new car.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is you have the same house, it went up 50%, your mill rate goes down 50%, you're paying the same
You're
thing.
paying-
I challenge you to look at your tax bill for the last several years, unless you've added on or bought a lot of cars, your tax bill is flat the last 3 or 4
Gone
years.
down, actually.
Actually gone down. Actually gone
Yeah,
down,
it's gone down. The only. thing
actually gone down.
That popped up a little bit, and we actually brought the mill rate down to adjust for it, was when used cars went up, and we
Yeah.
brought the mill rate down to adjust for it.
So,
But our tax rate over the past, and due
Mhm.
to some fantastic management by the first selectman and his team.
and the Board of
we-
Finance.
Who and his team, we've driven that mill
Well, now
rate
we're
down
just-
year over
Sure,
year.
sure,
It
sure,
is-
sure,
it is
sure,
now.
sure.
It's our-
But eggs are up and so forth and so on. But yes, actually, and I have a good mechanism inside the worksheet to see it. If
Yeah,
you pull it up on
last
that
time you
third
showed us
tab,
the equal to equal.
you can see it and it's in there. And, yes, unless you've added on or bought a car, your taxes are flat the
But
last
your
2 or 3
assessments and
years.
Values have gone up.
Sure.
So
Go,
that
so,
means
The rate effect.
but we're going from 23 to 16.55 in this thought experiment, right?
you're- right.
So if your assessment goes from 200 to 300,000 or something, it's coming out in the wash.
If you're gonna be, you should be.
This is what a lot of people don't actually understand about, I read an article from, I don't know, Apple News, it may have been Wall Street Journal or something. People in Florida getting, the property taxes go up and then their property assessment, the values go up and then their assessment. And I'm thinking, what is going on with these towns down there? Shouldn't they work in opposite? Like if values go up, mill rate goes down. These things are,
Yeah,
that's
but
the way
take the
we
time to
budget.
do that.
But then what are these towns doing? Just rolling in cash? Because we would be in like $5 million extra cash if we did
We're
this.
fortunate too, in that our breakup in taxable property is 80% of personal real estate,
Right.
10% cars, 10% others. A lot of municipalities that have a much higher commercial percentage, what they saw is
Right.
commercial real estate values went down.
Right, shifting the burden.
Personal real estate values went way up, but in order to hold the town, even, to hold it, they've actually had to raise up on the personal.
So it could be
side.
that
So
what's
also
happening.
Yeah.
within
It could be
So
that one.
we're in a sweet spot. Wyndham got hit with their last reval because their
Right.
commercial real estate dropped significantly. The only place to make up for that is
On
the
the,
other bucket, yeah,
Yeah.
on the
Mhm.
homeowners.
Mhm.
So we're in a sweet spot, and yes, I've had this conversation with another number of people, and I think Mike and I have had it, on and off. The objective here, though, is to make sure we can drive that mill rate down, as low as possible. And that
we're
my-
shared vision on that. We want it as
Yeah.
low as possible, but we need to make sure we need to make sure we have the fund balance to support it.
down, but we
Right.
need to make sure that we're trying to do our best to make sure that the folks who have seen a significant increase in their property value, that they're gonna be held harmless, and understanding full well, it's not an exact science.
That's right.
It's an art form.
Well, and
you
then,
know,
and then
but-
values do kind of
yeah,
percolate
they
around a little
fluctuate
bit
A little bit here and there.
between one and the other. We do have, basically, next week we hear from town and CIP. It's the week after that we really do start plugging into the worksheet.
Yeah.
However, I'm updating that worksheet. I'll share the link when I send out emails again, but the link should keep working. If you pull that up, you can kind of see the latest. And you go to that third tab, you can go to the middle tab for the revenue part, and see how it's kind of fitting together. I don't have a audited fund balance. And I was using a 3% for you for town budget, because we don't know what it is yet, but we do have accurate CIP, and I put in your number on
What?
the ed. What-
Well, I could tell you what it is, because we voted on it last night. If any of you came to the meeting, you would know. But since you don't care, you don't
guys
leave
have
home. You
That little
don't leave
room over
home.
there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a surprise. You have to watch on YouTube. But no, actually, in our CIP budget is down year.
It was
over year.
down,
So it
and
was
I
down-
put that number
I
in.
forget how much, 10,000?
20 grand, 10
15,000,
grand.
Whatever it was, yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
25, okay.
And so anyway, are we good on this one? Can we move past correspondence? Okay. Old unfinished businesses, Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed, Finances, COVID monies, ACS funding, security stuff. Any updates that you'd really
Majority
care to
of
share?
that should be kicked back to Lori, and Lori signed it. Mr. Duquette pushed most of the closures, punch list stuff down before he left.
Yep,
And Allison, and you have.
we got it unstuck, in other words.
We got it unstuck. We
Mhm.
got it unstuck. Couple things, so we should be good there and ready for reimbursement.
Gotcha.
We've been hearing that for 3 months. Who's the point person to make sure that that gets done? I mean,
I thought it was
because
you.
it's, no, I'm not on jail for asking you, but you know, you last meeting, we've been asking for 3 months now. and Last meeting, you said it was put over to Lori, and Lori's sitting there, I haven't done it. Lori sat there and said she hasn't.
We've made massive progress in the last 3 months. Yeah, because I needed him to close that out before, I needed the middle school principal to close that out before he left, so.
All right, so where does it sit now?
I think it's.
Right in Chris's office,
Yeah.
yeah.
Waiting for what?
We got Lori's on.
It's at the state. The state needs all the documentation. We were waiting on that.
And who isn't giving you the documentation?
We have the documentation now, so it's at the state level now.
So you have passed everything over to the state.
It was hung up prior to that, here in
So
town.
we are now all documents are sitting there waiting for them to, and then, okay. Unstuck all at state, okay.
And then any changes to the rest of this year's budget and the numbers that you'd given us?
No, so we are in good shape. We are in good shape. We are saving. I'm doing double duty as BMS principal right now, so there's some savings there. We should be in good shape to return money to the town. The revenue streams get back in here. We were at last time 70s-ish.
Yeah.
68-ish, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You're still on target for that, you
still on
think?
target for that, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's all we need for that, right, tonight? Okay, Chris, you any updates on your side? You're not gonna ask for more money this year?
I hope not. We have a couple areas where we've been impacted, particularly on HVAC, or heating and electricity, but
Mhm.
we'll see how that washes out. We might be coming in for line item transfers.
Okay, all right.
Nothing that looks significant.
If that happens, please have it documented so that we can go from that.
I have a couple
Yeah, go ahead.
questions. Last year, it was a big issue with the firehouse and their expenditures. And we asked the firehouse to come back with one simple thing about how are they spending $10,000 of town money given to them for their party, yearly party. So they never came back. So that's a question I'm going to be asking you when you present yours.
You can ask me, I can't answer the firehouse. If you want to ask the firehouse, then I suggest you get the chief over here and you can ask him, because I can't answer that question.
Well, then can you bring the chief, ask the chief? to attend our
If you
meeting?
want the chief to attend the Board of Finance meeting, the Board of Finance can.
I can
request
make
the
a
chief.
request,
Yeah.
sure.
Would you request? Because
Yeah.
that was a big issue with us last year, that they were saying they were spending $10,000.
Yeah,
And that to me is, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, the independent fire
Yeah, that's-
oversight council. We first met, I think, what was it, the week before? Yeah, a couple weeks ago, and we sort of discussed the game plan of how we want to approach the firehouse, because we don't want to come in and look like, we don't want it to be an adversarial,
Well,
relationship.
that's the whole
So,
premise of the committee, yeah.
but what we'd like to get is a full financial disclosure of everything. That's what we'd ask for first. Because, and we try to preface it on the fact that this is a town. and we're all on the same side. We want to get services, we want everybody paid, but we don't want to, overspend or, underspend. And so we're just sort of in discussions about that. There's not a whole lot of movement at the moment, but we're most likely going from quarterly meetings to monthly meetings. And
Oh, wow.
To get on it.
yeah,
So
get
that's
on it.
not gonna
So
help us this budget.
most likely not. Maybe we'll get some insight into how the money's moving in there, depending upon the level of cooperation. I mean, the board can make recommendations. We can't force anything, but, we'll see, let's see what we can get to.
Do you want
It's
me
not
to
gonna
put
be
an
a fast
invite out
process.
to see if,
I do, because it's my questions and Chris is not gonna be able to provide us with the
Right.
questions.
right?
And it's really not in Chris's plate. Although there was.
So then,
some
yeah,
organization
okay.
Yes,
just
if you go back to YouTube and watch last night's meeting, you will see that we had a robust conversation regarding funding the firehouse. But I've spent 5 years of my life trying to build an effective, reliable service.
But the
And-
fire,
I
the
understand
chief
your
wasn't,
frustration.
the chief wasn't at your meeting last night.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'll
that
make
was
a
the
request.
guy.
I'll say we have some questions and I'll just say, could you please come to a future meeting?
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
because I'm not gonna say come next week, but if, I'll just say we're meeting these dates.
Well, I would
Let me
give him a
know.
specific date, if not next meeting, which is Chris's next Wednesday.
Well, then there we go. Okay, sure.
That's Chris's
April 9th.
presentation of the budget,
Yeah.
or we'll have questions. And if it's not that week, the following.
Then
week,
I'll say the
we're
9th is
doing our
yeah, you're right.
collective
To
thing.
Jeanette's point, if she has questions regarding the request for funding for the firehouse, she can direct them to the chief, who can provide her with the answers.
Exactly, because they're not
And
forthcoming to you.
Then you can make the decisions based upon, that you want to make based upon his answers, which are the
Right.
informed, yeah, he's the subject matter expert in it. We sort of are just the
Well, it
the
doesn't,
conduit, yeah.
it does no good to put you in the middle of it if he's not giving you the
Right.
answers, and they.
I will do
he,
that.
She didn't give us the answers last time. either,
Yep.
so.
No,
I'm willing to cut
I'm with
10
you,
grand.
I'm with you 100% on that.
Well, I would like to review like what's going into the CIP for like the new truck and things like that, right? Is that?
Well, that's part of it too.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that-
well, I
He's
mean,
in
we
CIP.
should, yeah, we should
That's
really
already
review.
been through committee.
Yeah.
Point taken.
Yeah,
But the 10 grand you're talking about is in the regular
Right, that's
town
what-
regular, isn't it?
that was, there's a,
Or that
there's a
was a-
block, there's a block that they had for recruitment and retention, which wasn't broken down, but I'm going to make the assumption, and this is where the chief can answer that
Got it.
question, that the monies which were previously allocated in prior years for the annual fireman's ball and
Mm-hmm.
other events are probably included in that.
Yeah, it kind of frosted me when I saw it on the sign the other day.
Yeah, I figured.
they're gonna
it's,
invite you this year. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Should you, but yeah.
Same place I've been asking for years. Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
Another thing, Mike, if I may,
Mhm.
that when you bring your budget in next week, we have columns for previous year expenditures and actuals. Last August, you guys sat and went line by line and made moves and moves and moves and tons of moves. Those new numbers need to be what's
Oh, yeah.
keyed in there,
Yeah.
not just giving me
Yeah,
oh,
it should
here's a new
update
column, here's a
for-
new column. Fix that column.
We try, problem we have with any of this is we don't have a software system in place that carries any of that data over. So it's hard to actually pull in prior year numbers because you're plugging in each line individually and trying not to make a mistake. But we can put Patty on that and see if she can.
Yeah, is
Get
there,
that in
is,
for
yeah,
you.
is there anything we need to do to devote a little more resources to that, to bring somebody
Well,
else on to temporarily do that?
Things we're working on with our new regional administrative program is to update our software package that we use for doing our budgeting. I know the school, they updated theirs a couple of years ago, but the way the license was written, we couldn't jump in on it as the municipality. That would have been ideal, but actually bringing in a new software package that's in the cards. It's like baby steps, yeah, with this stuff, but that should be, hopefully within a year or two, we'll have something by the next fiscal year up and running, which is more robust, because what we do for our budgeting now is, it's antiquated and not adequate,
A
so.
lot of manual.
Yeah, a
flavor.
lot of manual, you don't
Just-
get, it's a lot of manual, double, it's a lot of manual entry. It doesn't track the budget actuals, clearly, so you don't get, it's hard to get a spreadsheet that can go show you back 2 years what your budget to actuals are on what we present to you. So that's a work in progress.
But Lori did explain, and we accepted the fact that you can't go back 2 years because you've changed
Yeah.
systems of accounting.
Right.
But this year, last year at this time, it's like, oh, we have a new system, we're screwed up, okay, we gave
But we
you
didn't even
grace.
have financials.
We
We're
gave-
gonna have, we'll have the actuals as of
We'll
now.
have the actuals as of today's date, yeah, that next week's date, yeah.
But my point to that, Joy, is that we'll have our actuals, because she'll give us a printout of to date. But the budget that you present is a record of your budget. So those numbers, she has a whole year to have put them in. Of what the actual
The budget
slips of
numbers.
changes were. So we can see that, okay, well, you thought you only went from 3,000 to 4,000. No, you actually spent 5,000, and that's why you're asking for 6. So
Yeah.
that actuals of what you've moved money around closed out your budget.
Your budget is like a spreadsheet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the prior year is prior year as approved by
Yeah,
the
as
Board of
approved. It's
Selectmen and
prior
Board of,
year as approved, it's not prior year as amended.
As amended.
Over the year, it's just,
uh,
it starts
there's
at
a list
point
of-
A.
I would think we'd want both and,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, because there's supposed to be a column of actuals, was actually
Um,
spent. You asked for this, but you actually spent that. Now we know why you're going up.
well, I mean, I get that that's not in your spreadsheet,
Yeah,
but it's on the report.
yeah.
So the
it-
budget on the report, when we see budget on the report, is it amended budget in Lori's report?
On Lori's budget to actual, yeah, those are current figures.
That is the
Yeah.
amended budget,
Yeah,
so let's
sure.
say we line itemed
That-
1,000
that should be,
into it,
'cause
it
if
should
she's
go up.
if we're making any line item transfers or changes.
You have to
that
make them
reflects
there
in the
to
budget
see
and
the
actual
zeroing out,
QuickBooks,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't see it on his, which I think is okay,
Right,
because that's as approved.
yeah,
But Lori's reports should show updated budget
yeah,
and
because you have. you'll
absolute
have to make those
spending.
Changes, yeah.
But what about all the changes that you made in August? Where are they?
they would be in Lori's budget,
Yeah.
Lori's report, ideally.
But that was closing out the previous year, so that's not in Lori's current reports.
Prior year on
It'll be
that.
in the last one for the prior year.
That's what I'm
To
saying.
compare
Those need to
Prior
be,
budget.
So maybe we just need a report of
updated,
prior year as well.
Prior actual.
We need a report from prior year as well then.
yeah,
We need an
'cause-
updated report from prior year.
yeah, the ones that you guys all moved
I
and
see what
fixed
you're
in
saying.
August. Yeah, because if you
'Cause
don't
the
have
current year
data,
is fine.
I'm sorry?
The current year is fine.
Yes, because she's on the new system and she's logged, well, you checked to make sure that what
Well,
we
I
passed.
gave her the changes. I don't know if she could get through them.
No,
What we actually passed.
Yeah.
Okay, but that year right there is sitting there that has no reflection of what was actually
I know
spent
what
in
you're
our
saying.
town. So, been asked that from.
Okay.
It's August.
All right. Chris, if you mention it, I will also email Lori.
yeah, I'll talk to her
Okay.
on Tuesday.
All right.
I have a question. Last week, the auditor's responsibilities, remember we were talking about, you were gonna contact the
Mm.
auditor?
I must have missed it.
Okay.
I don't remember what I was supposed to do.
Because we needed numbers from them and Lori said, well, we never had a presentation and they haven't gotten.
Were they
things
were
to
late in
download
coming
and
in on
everything.
the report?
Yeah, because we're like their smallest client, so we keep on getting shoved it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as concerned with the presentation as much as the
Yeah,
audited.
as long
fund
as
balance.
we get the number, as long as we get the books with the numbers in it and the unassigned fund balance, that's the most important thing.
Mm.
But that's what Lori was saying, that
Yeah,
there
if we can
wasn't,
get it
the
soon.
books weren't coming in and stuff. Cause
Mm.
that's data we need for this budget, isn't it? We need to know the unencumbered money.
Yeah.
The fund balance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's an auditor's thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I'm saying, if the auditor's not giving us the data. Lori had said that the books that we usually get, we always get the blue binder.
Oh, sure.
Those weren't even showing up.
no, because it's
And that's
all
what it-
electronic now. It's all electronic now. They're not, we
She
get
had
those.
said that they had needed to price so
We
many
get those-
copies for the office.
Yeah, we get the numbers from them. We haven't closed out the audit from the last fiscal year yet, but we'll get the numbers from them as soon as possible. I think generally speaking, Mike understands our timeline pretty well, so we'll have something.
Hmm.
Verbally.
within a couple of weeks, verbally.
It could be, well, I don't know, we relied on a penciled, yes,
Yeah.
this will
Oh,
be
yeah,
it,
yeah,
last year, right?
With a
Yeah.
pencil
So
napkin.
will we have
yeah,
by
just about, yeah,
next
It
week?
works.
It's next week.
yeah.
So will we have that?
In
next
2
week?
weeks, maybe, Chris?
2 weeks, yeah, because we haven't closed out. Heather was just here a couple of weeks ago with,
Because we start really working on that,
Yeah.
on the worksheet on the 16th. All right, let's move to the reviewing the budget schedule. I'm gonna just go kind of quick. We're on the second, we're doing the Board of Ed. Hopefully we'll start soon. We got town and CIP. We will ask questions to the Board of Ed about their budget before we make Chris over the coals next week. And then we start working on the worksheet and a preliminary approval for the public hearing. I will need to, post for that. We've got public approval for the public hearing the week after public hearing, the Tuesday and the Wednesday for approval. If everything moves quickly, we've got a couple, or smoothly, that we've got a couple meetings that we may or may not need. So that's a review. It's also in the agenda here as well. All right, with that, any questions actually on that? Okay, with that, let me pass the torch to Chris,
Thank you.
and I can bring up PDFs for the Zoom. And
Yeah, for the-
I only have this. Did you mean to hand out the other sheet as well?
You have two documents. You have
I would like this one. Here, yeah, let's get another one. Here, okay.
You've got two documents, which is, the first one is just a district budget comparison of where school district budgets sit in the state right now, as of Monday, and then you should have my narrative on where it's going through. And I'd like to thank Michelle, the principal, and the board for helping us construct this budget that we're gonna present. Are we ready?
Yep.
Ready to go? Okay. So I'm gonna just walk through this document. The current proposed budget on page 1, right now, we're at a 3.31% percentage, and I will break that down as we move through the document. Dr. Helen Baldwin is a 2.82 increase, CES is a 7.73 increase. Special ed is a 6.94 increase, transportation is a 2.92 increase, and the district is a -1.24 increase, for the grand total of 3.31. Correct.
Did you build your budget knowing you could go 3.31?
Did I what?
Build your budget knowing you could go 3.31?
I don't know what that means.
The cap is
Did
three
you-
point three one.
The cap on the east, on the, what was that, the email?
Oh,
Yeah,
OPMs.
Yeah.
the OPMs.
Was 3.31. Did you build your budget knowing I have
I had
3.31?
no idea, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's the maximum is 3.3.
The max you could go is 3.31 without losing funding based off of it.
Funding for the,
You're losing your grants, right?
It appears that if the total budget is higher than 3.31 increase,
that for
any
the
overage
town
gets
or for the
reduced,
school?
grants
Yeah,
get
for
reduced
the
by
town,
50%.
that's what I thought it was
For the
town.
whole,
whole
the
town.
whole budget, everything added together. It is coincidental.
Yeah.
if it's over 3,
If
That's
it's
for the whole
three,
town, it's not on us.
okay.
3.31
Spend away.
for everything.
really the same.
It just is the
Because-
same number.
Because everybody's over 3.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so actually, I had not seen the OPM thing, but also, it felt new to me, but then I looked at it and it seems like it's been on the books for a while.
yeah.
So, and,
Not MBR.
definitely
No.
not, no.
All right.
But yeah, everybody else is pretty high, so it's kind of,
Yeah, you printed up, can you throw that over to Chris, because
Thank you.
that's from Martin Heft at OPM.
Yep.
Every spring.
but I don't think that's new and it's definitely not specific to Board of Ed.
So it's a combination.
Mhm.
I did not know that, and I did not know that. You can change the number.
You can go lower. You don't want to lose your grants.
2.99, let's be careful, yeah.
Can't go
Yes, you can.
can't go an inch below it.
All right, you should, hopefully, most of you have a color copy.
Yep.
Of this, it's gonna be much easier for me to walk through it. All right, so the breakdown of our total budget, 65.5% of our budget is, well, 50.6 is salary, benefits, and taxes is 14.9 for a grand total of 65.5%. And other purchase services is 25%, 25.6%, which would be tuition for our special ed and regular ed high school students, which amounts to a grand total of 91.1%, which leaves us with a delta for other spending of 8.9%. So pretty slim on that backside there. This is the first year where we did not have any of the ESSER funding, ARP funding, the COVID relief funding. In fact, if you look at the news, the feds pulled that back from some districts who hadn't expelled their funding. We expelled our funding. So
You've spent everything?
we spent everything way before that piece.
Can I interject, Chris, have you done yours?
Oh, we have, yeah.
Yeah.
You spent everything that was given for
We
COVID?
have encumbered everything.
Do you
that
have
was
it in our
given
bank
for
accounts?
COVID. Huh?
Do you have it in our bank account?
Well, we haven't spent yet, because that was money, they gave us the money, and then you spent it down. We've encumbered all the money as per Treasury guidelines by, December of 2024.
Okay.
And now we're spending it as the projects come in, which include, when you go out,
You said
the
that-
new roof on the town hall,
Okay, because they are, the
different
federal
things, yeah.
government is saying they're pulling all
Yeah,
unexpended.
no,
funds
no,
back.
we had that well
Pulling them out of the
encumbered,
state.
yeah, we had that well encumbered per Treasury guidelines.
Not, they said even encumbered funds, they're going to pull them back and reassess.
They're not getting it because I have signed contracts, so that's a fight they'll have with my attorney, yeah, it's,
Cool.
You
Yeah.
guys are-
This guy,
Yeah.
yeah,
put him in charge.
Is it in our bank account, Chris?
yeah,
There you go.
they gotta go through to get it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's better.
So they do.
I think that was Jeanette's point. If it hasn't actually come to
If
the
you're sitting in
town,
the state, we're not gonna get it, but if it's sitting
In our bank
Say
account.
it's-
They handed that out, they gave everyone big disbursements. And then they said, and they changed the rules midstream. Up until about 6 months ago, they said you have to have this soft encumbered,
Mhm.
which they then changed to a hard encumbered by December of 24. So you had to have either signed contracts or POs in place. So a bunch of us towns were all of a sudden scrambling to get POs in place and to get this work on the books, which we all managed to do. But yeah, it's sitting in the bank account and it's well covered. I mean, they have no recourse to try to claw any of that money back.
So like the Citibank, okay.
All right, Michelle makes, high school tuition, so right now we have, 59 eighth graders. She makes, budget assumptions based on projections.
tell me which
for-
page you're on so I can follow along.
I'm going off of page 3 with the chart onto page 4. I'm at the bottom of page, high school choice for eighth graders.
Where's that?
Are you missing the page?
It's under the
Okay.
budget assumptions, page 4. It goes from page 3 to page 4.
Right, I
It's
see the budget.
It's
assumptions.
the-
It's in
The first paragraph, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's-
Board event members know how to read it. Yeah, well done. Good job.
Read left to right.
Oh,
So, tuition rates have not been received. We've received some, but not all of the tuition rates for the 10 high schools that we sent to. So we do send to 10 high schools with 59 eighth graders. And then you have a bar chart of the FY 26 budget drivers. You can see again, by far the largest driver is salaries and benefits and taxes. We had reductions in professional services, mild increase in purchase properties, big decrease in purchase services. That's because we brought many of our special education students that were outplaced back into district or into more efficient, better service programs. That's also a topic at the state level of capping those costs for schools. Supplies is very slim, and dues, fees, and others. So salaries and benefits for FY 26 have the largest increase of 530,000 or 4.11 over our FY 25 budget.
$500,000.
That's
Over $500,000.
That's contracts, right? Yes,
Contracts.
We're negotiating.
Mm.
we were on in my opinion, the good side of contracts this year. And I can show you the delta on the average contracts, yeah. Other purchase services, nutrition accounts increased this, driving down the overall requested amount by $164,000, 851 or 1.28%. And other accounts have an overall increase of $60,000 or 0.48%. Go now to the subcategories. We'll start at BMS,
Page 5.
page 5. Yes, sir.
You have a summary this year. You used to in the past, every year we used to get a breakdown of this is what textbooks was, this is dues for that section, this is.
Michelle has all that right there. If you want the 180-page document, I'm happy to give you that.
I
But
don't know, copy
for
of it.
brevity of.
We can get it out tonight and I'll share it out and can be fodder for questions next week. Yeah.
Brevity of this.
It's not that I'll give it to you tonight, it's like-
By next week.
But if you, by the end of the week maybe, so we have time to look at it, so we can ask questions.
I did do my best.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have the summary sheets here for each school, so with the line items. So you have, you don't have the minutia of the breakdown, but you have the line item breakdown. So let's do BMS, first. There are no changes at BMS other than we did have a gym teacher, PE teacher that moved on at the beginning of the year that we did not fill to wait to see what the needs of the school would be. We are reallocating that position to a math teacher for next year.
All right, that makes sense.
I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah, I
wait,
was like,
one.
yeah.
So the teacher's
Yeah.
going to be the PE teacher next year.
Nope, nope.
Oh, the other way?
No, we had a math teacher leave us.
Oh, okay.
I did not fill that.
No.
PE, I'm sorry. Now you got me confused. We had a PE teacher leave us
Mhm.
in October. We did not fill that position to wait to see what our needs were. We have significant need to add math position for math students. So instead of hiring another PE teacher, we reallocated the teaching slot to a math teacher. Yep. So that's why you see that 111, because it goes from 3 math teachers to 4 math teachers, but you see the corresponding minus in the physical education
So the math line at 230,000 increase is
of one extra
for the
person
one person and
and salary
And
increase.
Yeah,
increases on the
yeah,
other
all that
Salary
stuff,
increase, yep. And possibly, so if you look at some of the other lines that are like minus, right, for language arts, that is because we had a retirement and Michelle's forecasting that that won't be a top step person anymore, right? There also could be change in what kind of insurance benefits and plans that they take, so she, you know,
Hmm.
that's why you have like a minus 40. So if you look at that bottom, see the regular ed programs at the bottom, it's a 0.82 with the salary.
What
It's really good.
Hmm.
happened to language arts?
Language arts at a minus 3.5, he's retiring. He was, I'm sorry, a person is retiring at top step and benefits. So the odds we would fill would not a top scale person.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, so 0.82, school counselor services, these are, you know, these are nurses increases, speech services, we actually are partnering with Columbia. One other district on speech services, so there's a savings there. And I think that shared services, especially for related services, will be the way forward, especially for the smaller rural districts. Dedicated shared services as much as possible. So bottom line, 2.82 on at BMS. If you flip to the next page, it has more of the narrative. 2.82 or 70,477. The primary drivers were the overall increase of $44,000, which is due to contractual increases and the reclassification of the teaching position from physical education to 7th grade math. And will also allow us to have more 7th and 8th grade students take advanced math classes, which they can now gain high school credit for by taking it.
That's
They can
good.
take algebra
Nice.
1 in middle school, algebra 1 in Spanish, they can take in middle school and now get high school credit. Utilities continue to be vexing, especially in New England here. Our utility increase is $23,000 for electrical costs. Health insurance, we had a decrease, and again, that's, that's random. That's based on who takes what plan on the enrollment. Overall, BMS supports 213 students, with our largest class being our outgoing 8th grade class at 59 students.
What is 10-124 count mean?
That means that's for the state. The state takes a census of all the schools on the 1st of October to determine.
Oh,
enrollment.
so it's a date.
Yep,
okay.
yep, and I keep running totals at each board meeting, and I update the board as we go forward with our, current enrollments per monthly, and then our projections. NESDEC does a projection for us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, So, and then if you go to that bottom list, right, there's the piece where you see the fourth math teacher added in the reduction in the health and PE to 1. Yeah. Just give you only changes at BMS. Page 7. BMS also supports athletic programs and other student activities and stipends for coaches, including athletic director, girls soccer, boys soccer, cross country, girls basketball, boys basketball, cheerleading, basketball, track, league teacher, yearbook, National Honor Society, dance advisor, 8th grade advisor, and team mentors. We had 70 students go out for track. So,
Wow,
70.
nice.
Any questions on BMS before I move to CES? CES overall represents a 7.73, right? Yeah, 773. The top is just contractual increases for the teachers. For a total of 8.92%. That could be contractual increase. It could be change in degree status. It could be change in insurance status. Facility operations were up 13.02 projected. Is that electrical? Yep. Speech services. This is what I alluded to earlier. We are sharing services with Columbia, I believe, and so we have a halftime speech service, and they're super hard to find. So we're saving 26% on that by sharing services. And again, we're going to continue to share as many of these services as we can. Next page.
Are any positions here, federally funded?
That's on the next, that's 2 pages over. So we'll get to that.
I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between the middle school and elementary school's general account?
Yes, ma'am.
It looks like the classifications are
Yeah,
different.
so because the elementary school doesn't have a teacher that's set for math or set for PE or.
Oh,
other
that's right,
subjects,
'cause
they're
It's
dumped
been
into
a long
general.
time.
They're
Hmm.
first
No
grade,
kids in
second
school.
grade, right? So
I
all of
gotcha.
our teaching staff is in the general account, whereas the middle school is broken out by
I
subject.
gotcha, okay. That makes total sense.
Wages increase is, I'm on page 9 now. Budget drivers for CES, a wages increase, are 92,605. That is contractual wages, but also we are asking to bump up a para from half-time to full-time for library support. So we're doing something, bear with me here. We are building, we had a technology teacher retire this year. We had an internal teacher move over. We're gonna start a STEM lab there so that's flat. That's all flat money, but we need more support for the library. So that actually was a 1.0 person that got reduced to cover some other needs in the building. So we're looking to restore that to full-time in the library and then run a STEM lab there. And our hopes are that we can get some students to come back from Charles Barrows and save tuition money that will keep the students in by running the STEM program within. We're going to start at CES. If it's successful, replicate at BMS as well. So that's the idea there. Benefits increase of 70, that was changes in health insurance and enrollment. Yeah, utilities increase of 19,864, increase in electrical cost. CES currently serves almost 300 students. So we're not as tiny as folks think we are.
I noticed that the utilities is higher at CES than BMS. Doesn't CES have those solar panels?
They do. It's a bigger building.
Is it-
Yeah, it is a bigger building, and part of the electrical piece we went to, and this predates me. We talked about, we went to these LED light systems,
Yeah.
which will save us money, but the loan for the capital installation was included in that, and when they projected.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
and when they projected the savings, they didn't think the rates were gonna take off like they did, so.
So that 19,000 includes the payment for that?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Correct, yep,
Yep.
so that's your all-in-one payment plus the rate increase and the solar panels. How old are those solar
I was
panels?
just gonna say, the solar panels are getting towards the end of their
I was gonna
life,
say, they've been there.
so they're not working as efficiently as they once did.
They're probably 25-year or 30-year.
But we've been, is it,
They're not
No, they're not.
25
No, they're
years
not.
old. Those were put on when I was on the
I
Board
have
of
to
Ed.
disagree.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lois
Yeah,
Snackton was superintendent when that was
Please don't
done.
say
there.
that.
Oh.
They came in the year after I.
Yeah,
or
10 years,
so they've been here for
10 years ago.
10
Yeah.
10 years, huh?
10 years.
They're not on.
They
the
should be
expectancy.
running fine.
But I also think that the agreement that was signed 10 years ago was not as advantageous as they are now.
Mm.
We're paying, I think we're not getting a good power purchase agreement on that. From day one, they haven't really been a money saver.
Mm.
Yeah, but the agreement that was signed at that time, 10 years ago, has not really been a money saver.
Because of the structure of the.
Because of the structure of the agreement, yeah.
Is there
I don't know,
expectancy on that?
that
contract?
would be a good question for the superintendent and his business office to dig into and see if there's,
Yeah, there's probably buyout
yeah, to
clauses
see,
that
see what's
certain
going on
points,
10
but-
years in, what the options are available to
there's also, what's the company we're working with there, it's the Liz,
them. Yeah, that's, what's her name?
that Lind lady.
Yeah, oh God, it's right, yes.
Sad is that they know who they.
We know who we mean. That's
Yeah.
Elaine Lynn from Titan Energy.
Correct, yep.
Yeah. We know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was code, it was code. And solar technology has
Advance.
advanced a lot.
Oh, significantly.
Yeah. So you got 295 students at BMS. You're pretty full, Mrs. Curry, correct?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about this year is about the physical plant at the elementary school. You know, census projections have us increasing in the district by 20 students, and, you know, that doesn't sound a lot, but then I start to twitch. Because, yeah, more than usual, because we are currently sharing the space in a very flexible way. I mean, I share my office on a daily basis. Just to give you an indication of how creative we have been in sharing space. But when we look at, one of the things I needed to bring to the board of ed was we did a lot of facility walkthroughs this year, you know, looking at our facilities, and then came to the elementary school. And while things are generally in good shape, there's more work than we thought, but I had to say, you know, I'm concerned about adding things onto us because of how at capacity we are.
That second story would cover those solar panels that aren't as cost effective as we want, right?
And the people were pretty to begin with, and, yeah, if we could, oh, yeah, getting up there might be a little bit of a challenge, but, you know.
Oh, yeah, the climb up there is,
The climb
yes,
up is-
yes, yeah.
My office.
You can move up there, you can share with the bats, yeah.
Absolutely.
So the kindergarten and first grade, those numbers are pretty high,
Yeah,
yeah. So what's the influx look like of, I mean, I see houses being built everywhere.
Yep.
I know a lot of Rhode Islanders are moving in. 'cause
Oh,
property
they're an
tax-
invasive species.
I second that.
No, but you started bringing up here, you were the first one, you laid the trail of breadcrumbs down Route 14, and they all stopped there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what the building permit figures are for this year, but there's been a lot of, if you look at the activity real estate wise, if a market goes on, it sells. And so there's been a lot of turnover in who's owning and,
Yeah.
we've had families come in, so it's,
Yeah, I don't know if it's young families. I know the woman that bought the house in front of me is an older
yeah.
woman. Her kids are in Plainfield, grown.
Yeah, we don't track if they're moving in with kids, but when you see them come in after when they ask, where do they pay their water bill, which has happened a few times, because they don't understand.
Yeah. They better
You can see that there are families moving in that.
pay your water bill to me.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Why don't you just give them a water bill?
Yeah.
About that, but I figured
Make
if
it
I
check-
started
check
sending
my
this
dog.
bill out every 6 months, after a while, I don't know, I might end up in prison. Yeah, so.
We are averaging 8 students a year according to the NESDEC report. So we are actually bucking the trend of which, most towns are facing declining enrollment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a beacon for, students.
Oh. You have a unique setup, yeah.
Yeah.
An invasive species, yeah.
We are
I
averaging.
didn't know
8
you were
births
from
a
Rhode
year
Island.
according to this
Oh.
report.
And then the
Oh.
governor's talking about
That's
as
his brother.
well.
Correct.
So that
Mhm.
would affect our physical
Yeah,
space.
you're
also.
another one.
Yeah, I was born there. I lived there for 2 years.
But then at that point, you might be using the town hall for that, then, I don't know.
So what is
New
the,
library.
what is the plan?
Well, the plan is to maximize our space and to make do as far as we can for now. We are flat trended. I mean, we've been gaining about 8 students a year. Well, since I've been here, which is only 2 years, but we are pretty flat for the next 2 years, and we start to go up by 8 and then 10 and 12. So you can see the ramp up here for the projection. So, I mean, that would be a combination of, real estate values and what's available and, building permits going on in the town. So like, she's got a little bit of elbow room, not much. There's some more at BMS. So we would have to sit down and reconfigure and figure out what the long-term plan is and what the long-term projections are of that. But
What about expansion on the elementary school? Is
that's
it
possible. That is possible. And she has a fair amount of land behind there, like 7 acres in that little.
So the wells and the septic can support,
That I don't know.
Yeah,
Doing
yeah,
a
okay.
feasibility study. Yeah.
But then BMS would be.
BMS, the town doesn't own that strip between the two. Right, there's a big.
No, I'm just saying, if
Yeah.
you're expanding the elementary.
Yeah, that
school,
would be
logically,
long,
will
long-term.
they fit
long-term,
in
plug your ears,
the middle
Chris.
school?
The long-term, if the grants, if the building grants somehow were to reach 99.9%, it would make feasible sense for an efficiency study to put everything
I
in.
said that 10 years ago. They tried to run me out of town.
No,
That building you work in, according to many people, is historic.
I prefer.
The issue.
Yeah, historic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what?
There's a lot of.
It's only 70 years old.
EMS coming up,
Yeah.
that are gonna be
Mhm.
hefty. I mean, window replacement alone, that's gonna be asbestos removal and.
Right.
But
I mean,
the idea is,
it's-
as I broached 10 years ago, we're trying to find a way to get it all under one roof and all.
You
the-
save on a lot of
Yeah, well, yeah,
administrative
it's,
stuff.
yeah, you save on administrative costs, you can reduce some of your overhead. I think in long term, it's better to go, I think it's better for better management for the school in a small town, I think it makes more sense, but I had that discussion and it sort of,
There's a-
nowhere.
There's a lot of efficiencies. Well, Sterling
Perfect.
does it, right? Sterling has a K building.
Pomfret, yeah, and in fact, I always
Yep.
point out that when we built our new school, which is now 30 years old, so it doesn't get, it shouldn't have the title new school. When we built our new school 30 years ago, Pomfret was in the same situation. They had a boom, and then rather than building a separate school, they built out Pomfret Community School and kept everything all under one roof, which I think for a smaller town, that's probably saved them millions of dollars over the last, 30 years just in built-in operating costs, but
So are you saying that the middle school could be where the elementary school is as well?
You'd have to add on.
Yeah, no, I know that, but there's enough room for
I
both.
think there's enough room. It'll be tight, but she's got, I wanna say she's got 7 acres on the.
At the elementary.
Yeah.
Throw everything up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
And I pointed out 10 years ago that the Baldwin Middle School actually then opened up a whole host of opportunities for the town, from a rec center, because the
Yeah.
fact that has the gym there, it makes a great space to rehab into elderly housing, which you might be able to do that. That's been done. It makes a great space for maker space. So the local electrician that's outgrown his garage now can rent one of those classrooms and turn that into a shop space.
Right,
So there's a
right.
lot of ways you can
Yeah,
you can repurpose.
yeah,
that.
Ledger did that with one of their schools and it's working out fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
you can
Yeah.
repurpose it.
Yeah.
a lot of
People-
The Ledger Center School, yeah, they have mixed maker space, they have liquor store, they have all sorts of stuff in there now. Yeah, it's a really good use of the school.
I was gonna take it as a dispensary.
What did you just say?
There's, yeah, the school.
They said grow facility.
She'll be the chair of the committee.
The state has a construction grant that the rates go back and forth, because we did this in Plainfield. And we just, we built a new high school. We just timed it where it was 86%, right, reimbursement. So you're paying 14 cents on the dollar to do it, and they do a feasibility study. And that was very similar to, in fact, they just took down the last part, the annex part from 1920. But that was a similar vintage to BMS, on the piece, and just what you save on, like the efficiency of the electricity and things like that. But the key has to be, you need the town support, and that grant reimbursement from the state's gotta be very high.
Who
Right.
drives that though? Who manages that? Where's that one?
That is, it's not OPM.
Is it Chris? No, I mean here.
It starts with, it's really the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
And
Okay, that's what I thought.
the impetus has to come from the Board of Ed to sort of drive that, then it becomes the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and we still gotta keep our mill rate at about 15 or lower.
Yep.
So there's a whole host of things that go into it, but it's really the Board of Ed coming back with that analysis, that detailed analysis, that this is the space that we need. Then working with the state, getting buy-in from the Board of Selectmen, and then buy-in from the Board of Finance.
Okay.
So you're talking, hell, I'll be retired in Puerto Rico before the shovel hits the ground, I
Yep.
think, but
I
it's a
mean, we have
multi-year
probably about 5
process.
years before we're
Yeah.
gonna reach max.
Right.
So how much is the feasibility study for this?
So feasibility study would probably million, 10 to 20 grand.
Oh.
Well, that's,
I thought it was gonna be a lot more
Would that
expensive than
be-
that.
that's pretty
BOE
good.
budget? Selectmen.
Yeah, we,
Yeah, we just did
A what?
a
Yeah.
transportation study, and it was about 10 grand. We gave that, so, but it was worth it because of the savings,
Yeah.
So,
Well, if his committee works well with your thoughts on the firehouse, we can have pre-K over in the firehouse.
only if they get a voucher.
Yeah, you can fit a lot of elementary school kids on a tanker. Yeah, it's
Give a
good.
washcloth.
Yeah.
there's other possible revenue streams if you did that too, because Scotland is so small, Hampton is so small, that you could possibly get tuition students to cut down, your revenue by having 70,000, like, Scotland can't maintain the school, open, keeping a school open, Hampton can't maintain, these are tiny schools where you're spending a ton of money for administrators.
It makes our budgets pale in comparison. Yeah, if you think this is bad, see theirs, but I know with Scotland and Hampton, both, 2 years ago, both, Gary and Alan, the first selectmen, and they put a lot of time and effort into putting together a program to combine the two schools,
Mhm.
and it got shot down. I think Scotland approved it and Hampton shot it down and was looking at long-term savings, providing a better education, but you're always sort of bucking that
Ownership.
local emotional
Local control.
impact and control, yeah. The
Yeah, but I
best
mean-
laid plans can get sidelined pretty quick.
It's
No.
not just about the school, it's about the school, but it's about attracting new people to move in, the real estate taxes, the property taxes. And if we don't have
Schools, more income.
capacity, yeah, exactly. And it's not just a school, it's good schools and good communities.
Well, I might be biased, but I think we have a really good school, like in terms of school system, and I think a lot of families are moving here for
Yeah,
that.
I think so too.
And-
I did,
Yep, and the high school choice is also a big draw.
Yep.
Yep,
that's exactly why.
so.
But I've been here for 20 years. I know you guys have never seen me, but I have been here for 20 years.
Got that quarter mile long driveway, you don't come out, yeah.
They stay,
I mean-
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't I don't want, 3 years from now, we're like stuck.
No,
Hmm.
I think we're trying to get through budget and then start having some discussion.
Sorry, feasibility study, will that also include the potential economic development of BMS building?
I think
Would that
that's,
be in
I
your-
think that's a separate study, but it could be able to latch on.
You could probably build it out a little bit in that respect. yeah.
Would you have to start that?
I think I would possibly, yes, possibly, because then you're looking at how to reuse that building, but that's a conversation that would be had with the consultant, would be brought in to do a feasibility
Okay.
study to see if they could take on that portion of it, and
You would have this town go rampant right now if you asked for a feasibility study of what to do with the Helen Baldwin School.
well, it's still historic, yeah.
Why?
Why? Just like the fire department, you have a problem is, the ownership, you can't do that. We own it, it's ours. But Chris wanted to go in and look at other options for the, firehouse.
Oh, no,
It
the
became an
firehouse
issue.
is. to
But
me,
I'm,
is
but I'm
separate.
saying,
Different animal.
but if Chris right now went and said, I want to do a feasibility study of how I could repurpose the Baldwin School, this town would be up.
Yeah, but it
for
has
it.
to be
If you project it as, we're gonna combine schools and make a nicer school system.
But I think it needs to start with.
It,
this
it does have to
school.
start with the
Yeah,
school.
you'd have to
Yeah.
present the holistic
Yes,
plan.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it's a
If you
byproduct
sit
of,
there and say that, they're gonna think that you wanna.
I see what
kids
you're
Well, but
to-
also BMS is not a private school that we don't, have the board of and could control it. And so it's different from the fire department,
Yeah,
which is a
Right.
private
starts-
organization.
The process starts with the
Yeah.
school, but at the end of the day, to Jeanette's point, emotion.
It's-
For sure,
Yeah.
emotion.
Can really overrule the best arguments out there. And it's unfortunate because you can have a great plan out there to how you can address the future educational needs and some of the needs of the community, and emotion will overrule it. H.L. Mencken, and I will bastardize it, but H.L. Mencken, who has some great quotes, said, he's never seen so many stupid decisions made by so many intelligent people except at town meeting.
You have a lot of educated idiots. still.
And that's what you're up against, because you get to a town meeting and you never know where that can go.
Don't
So,
mistake intelligence for.
it's all about data. How many more people can you fit? How much money does it bring into the town? How much is it gonna cost? It's
Yeah.
all data.
I mean, you've seen our grand list grow as our school community grows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You ready for special ed?
Do you want to say anything more about the FTEs? The change there was the para +1?
The only FTE was going from the half to the full, to support the library. So that was the only
Got it.
increase.
What about?
Yes, ma'am.
The reading program pair increase.
There's,
is that
yeah,
still
it's,
there?
it's one full-time position, it's 2 half-times going to full-time, so it's one.
Got
full
it.
position.
Is your IDLS program federal?
Idle/Hugs is grant funded.
What is that?
That didn't answer my question.
The state or federal?
I
We're gonna
don't
get
know.
onto the grants page.
Terry said it's state.
Yeah.
I used to know what it was.
Which one?
The Hugs program, the Idols programs.
What is that?
What are those programs again? What are they?
The HUD's program.
Service?
If I might, the
Yeah.
HUD's program, it's called Idols here, but that's, it's HUD's here in Canterbury. But it's both of the same programs. They're, based on, I forget the name of it now.
You did it.
But it's primary mental health grant, which talks about, there's an institute in New York that talks about how we help children to feel better at school. So it's a program in most schools in Connecticut that's funded by the state of Connecticut that provides a child associate and a playroom for students. So they take a social emotional screening. Canterbury was way, because of this program, many elementary schools had this long before others looking at SEL, social emotional learning, because of this program. And you identify children based on that, based on how their love of school or how school feels to them. And you offer them 30 minutes a week with a child associate, who in our case is a psychologist who just works for us part-time, but it's child-led play. So it's a room filled with all sorts of wonderful things. And the children go in there and get to direct the play. It's a very important role for any school because of the pace of the world seeps into school. And when you have the chance as a child to direct what you're doing and direct your play, you relax. In addition, for kids that are nonverbal and or young, any child facing any kind of emotional need at that age tends to be nonverbal about it. They play through it. And so to have that kind of opportunity for the kids, we see a tremendous increase in their feelings of wanting to come to school. We use it as part of our intervention model to support the kids socially, emotionally. We also have a mentor program in the building, which is a little different, but with the same goal of providing supports to kids at a young age so that they can learn how to
Adapt.
yeah, and
Yeah,
flex and
yeah.
fail and get up.
Build
just
that,
like
build
we
that
all
toolbox.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like we all want.
Yep.
And the focus on social emotional learning is a gift to our culture with fruit in the years to come. Of that, I'm sure. Because even the adults go around the first time it came to us saying, I'm having a strong emotion, which was, you know,
Yeah.
far better than saying, you know, it's far better to talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's what that program is, and it helps the children quite a bit.
Okay.
Oh, my daughters love hugs.
Yeah, my kids are in it.
Oh, they thought it was the best thing. They got them out of the classroom and they got to go play for an hour. They thought it was
We
brilliant.
did that, we did that, like, I was in a Montessori school and it, same kind of thing. Yeah, that's, yeah.
They look forward to it.
Relationship in a school building and for kids who have a tough
Yeah.
time going.
It's
it
great.
does make a
It's
big
grant funded. Get any grant you can, go for it.
That's been our. I'm gonna start on page 12 for special ed, just so it makes more sense, which is the narrative page. Special education department, overall, and let me talk through the narrative, because it's gonna make much more sense, but it has had a budget of 6.94 increase this year. Our public tuition, and again, one kid could sway this, had a increase, this is special education students. 114,717 due to increased enrollment. Wages due to contractual increases, but we also outsourced for a behavioral consultant and a BCBA and behavioral consultant. But that ended up being a savings for us, and I'll explain why here, because health insurance, 21,000, budget decreases, professional services overall decreased 31,000 due to reassigning contracted services. So Mrs. Langlois has been very good about looking for efficiencies and dropping our special ed services number budget, which can destroy, make or break a budget. And I would argue the kids are getting much better quality education and in most cases staying in their own district. That she's worked very well with Miss Perry on building programs, including the flex program down at her school. There's been some growing pains with some students like we just talked about, but you know, overall continue to add supports. The BCBA came in and we paid the BCBA, whatever we paid the
I think
BCBA.
it was 1,200 a week for one day
12, yeah, but
through Eastham.
consulting service, so we could build it in-house and therefore not send two students out for that tuition. And if you go down to the next piece, you're gonna look at the tuition, special ed tuition. So Alice Tech, Griswold, we have two special ed students at Griswold for a combined total of 56,968, so $57,000. NFA, we have one student for 49,000, so you can see all these special ed numbers at Woodstock Academy. We have 13 special ed students and we pay them almost $500,000 in special ed tuition, right?
That's
So
34 grand a kid.
you got it. So we're gonna talk about that when we get into excess costs and all that jazz.
Yours was 28 a kid.
So part of the narrative at the state level, and it hasn't filtered down to us, is ways to, you know, it's a state, so you never know how efficient they're gonna be, ways to cap these outside costs because they're just prohibitively expensive and just can sink local budgets. And it's unfair to put this amount of weight on the taxpayers in the school system.
Chris, we have a choice for high schools.
Yes,
parents get to choose?
Parents get to choose.
Special ed
parents get to
situation?
choose, parents get to choose.
As long as the program is offered in that school that they're choosing?
Yeah, so I think with special ed, right, the students get to choose, and it's also about best fit of programs for that individual student's, needs.
Right, I mean, some
Yeah.
schools have programs that the others don't.
Yep.
So,
So Norwich Tech has 6 different I'm sorry, NFA has 6 different specialized programs that they charge different tiers of rates on based on the student's IEP.
Hmm.
Yep.
but
What's,
is that the same program that this child is getting for 49 grand at NFA? Is it offered at Woodstock at 34? I mean, would you have any ability to direct a student that they have to go to Woodstock instead of NFA, or do they carry into the category of the parents?
I think to the best of their ability, the team knows, Courtney goes and visits these programs all the time, and what you're killing, for example, just open their own program, right? Because it's just better and more cost effective to have these things. So I think to the best of their ability in that PPT process, they'll give them
Or
choices.
guide them to the choice of the,
Yeah, but it has to be a good fit for the kid too,
that's what I'm
right?
saying, guide
Yeah,
them to the
yeah,
best
yeah.
fit.
To a better piece. Now, I'm not an outside special ed auditor that can tell you the quality other than, what I hear qualitatively about different programs and things like this. But I can't objectively give you an answer that Woodstock's tier 2 program is better than NFA's tier 2 program.
But you also don't sit there and say, no, we're not gonna let you go to NFA, we're
Correct,
gonna make you
I
go to
can't do
Woodstock.
that, yeah, I can't legally do that, yep. So, and then you see our non-public high schools, these are specialized programs, and this is really where, so for the most part, there's better value in the public high school offerings for
Mhm.
special ed. When you look at the one student at the learning clinic is, $118,000, that's. a lot.
Yeah, what is, is there something
Where
a
is
lot more comprehensive?
Yeah, so it'd be
Yeah.
a student with high needs that the learning clinic, potentially could offer. But we are in a transition phase where Woodstock's building a program, NFA is building programs. So a lot of it with, Courtney's kind of theory of action has been to get students out and have the families tour some of the public school facilities and say, hey, there's a lot more kids here, I can socialize a lot more, and the program's just as good, if not better than these programs.
Where's the learning clinic?
The learning clinic is, if you're going to 169 headed out towards Pomfret, it's on the right.
Right by
Right before
Lepsley
Marks.
Orchards.
Yeah, right by
Oh.
Lepsley.
Okay.
The crosswalkers everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
North,
wonder what that was.
118.
yep,
But is that residential?
no, that's day for that place. So, Bradley, North Transition Academy, I believe, is affiliated with North Public Schools, so. Yeah. And then our East Con fees, 60,000 and 60,000. So back to my thesis at the beginning here, it's better value for us to spend a little more money on the services if we save on the back end, unfortunately. Page 13, table represents reflex staff positions that are in the special education budget. 2 pre-K teachers, they're in the readiness grant in Courtney's budget, yep. And, special ed, we have 16.5 paraprofessionals. 5 of them are supported by the federal grant, which is the IDEA 611. 1.4 by school readiness and 0.4 by IDEA 619.
So how many paraprofessionals are federal?
Total, we have 16.5
16.5.
minus 5 minus 1. Do you want me to get my pink calculator? Let me get my pink-
5.4 are federal
There
funded,
you
because
go.
IDEA is federally funded. School readiness is our state, which is changing next year. School readiness is now early start.
All right.
Does that calculator add though?
This one adds, because hers only.
Oh, yeah.
But it-
You said that last time.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
And where are we? BCBA's speech we talked about, social worker, behavioral tech. And then van drivers, right? Van drivers to move our kiddos to these placements. We employ 1.5, van drivers, 1.5 FTE van drivers. For a total of 31.75. All right, revenue sources. Yes, sir.
This also, her budget here, her budget fund deficiencies reflect that BCBA at 1.0. Because what she found, I thought, was that East Palm charging us for a day a week was so expensive that hiring our own would.
It's cheaper for us to own these people ourselves than to, so special ed folks are a rarity because there's so much need. So what we've been doing is calling other small districts and sharing services on special ed piece, and either we're the employer of record for, 0.6 and then 0.4, they're working in Scotland or
Do
something.
you have that with some of these people?
Yes, yeah, and that's how we made it work, because everybody that's in these smaller districts are, and quite frankly, larger districts is in the same boat. Norwich is a massive district that can't get special ed teachers. So, we are very lucky that we are, solid and kind of insulated from this piece. It is these related services, folks, that are really hard to find, like speech and language. They're super hard to find.
Okay, so some of our people go out to other districts.
Yeah, we
Where's-
share.
Okay, where's that reflected in the revenue that you must get for that?
It's not revenue because we just pay them their 0.6 or their 0.4 in the other.
When they go to
district.
the other district,
other
they get
district
paid by the
pays
other
the
district.
Okay, so, but you're reflecting it as one, and it's not really, it might be a 0.6 person.
Give me a example here.
No, I think he did reflect, they reflected the points.
Yeah, see, like the SLPA 0.5,
Yeah,
we share that with another district.
okay.
Yep.
So it is reflected. in the-
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Revenue sources, Canterbury, as all Connecticut schools, will applies for and receives, if eligible, the excess cost grant. Excess cost grant is, 4.5 times our per pupil expenditure. That's the threshold you have to reach to get reimbursement, and that comes back to you guys, to the town, as revenue.
When you say per pupil expenditure, is that your average?
That's the average.
Average?
Yep.
And then even though it's special ed, that could jump up to
The
2-3
state,
times?
the state has a, document that they put together every year that gives you your per pupil. And that's based off of our expenditures, I think 2 years prior audited expenditures.
Okay, so it is based off of our data, not state data.
And then you have to reach, for a special ed student, you have to reach 4.5 times that before they reimburse you anything.
So that's the threshold for excess costs above. So what you see for that 118,000 for that one kid, right? Once we reach that threshold of, 90,000, the rest is excess cost. Yep,
Do we do transport? No.
we do.
So when
Those
you
were those
figure-
van drivers in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
when we submit twice a year to the state what our high cost students are, and that is part of it. So we take into consideration, even if we have an in-school student that we don't send out, if that student reaches that, you can apply for
Okay.
that.
So excess cost comes back to the town, and our estimation for this year is 32,495, because we've only been over, we've tried to bring special ed costs down, and we've only been over a couple of students, so that's why that number is not as large. So the number going back to the town is not as large, but the number in our budget is not as large either. It's the outflow.
So the readiness at the very bottom, right, school readiness grant, and the idea, what is it, student?
The IDA is
That's-
federal and the
IDA.
school
Yep.
readiness is state.
And then page 14 is just if we have tuition students, meaning students that don't live in Canterbury, but would attend Canterbury for some reason, like, let's say a family wanted to send their student because of the quality of our schools, we would bill them, and that would go to the town. That'd be town revenue as well.
But these amounts reflect not tuition students as much as they reflect
These are
Place
students that,
members.
nope, this chart here is for students that we billed for because they're not a Canterbury resident, but they attend our schools.
They're not the
But they
DC,
pay the
but they are
town.
placed
We've
there.
got that as a line on the revenue
That
side.
should be a line for revenues.
Yeah, I was just, my confusion in hearing it was, it sounded like these were children that were paying tuition to come to Canterbury because they chose to come to Canterbury.
That could.
It could be, yeah.
As well as the state placement.
We would not provide transport.
Okay.
Like, you know, if we live in Scotland and wanted to send your child to community, you would transport them and pay us tuition, which the town would receive. Yeah.
How many does that reflect?
We have 2024 and the estimate for 2025 is one student.
Yep.
The board sets the tuition rate based on that's basically our budget divided over how many students we have in the district.
I find that strange, a parent will want to send their kids to another
This
town.
one wasn't a choice.
It could be DCF
Yeah,
placement.
it should be.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
okay,
yep.
all right. Yeah, why wouldn't you want
What?
your kids to grow up with the same kids?
It's happened, it has happened, yeah.
Do you offer any, things for people that teach in our, or work in our district to let those students come to us?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that if we could make it, if we had the space and we could figure out how to make it financially feasible. I would love to do that. Cause I get requests all the time for that.
So that's another feasibility. for you to do. Making a list.
No problem. Transportation, I'm on page 15 to 20, so
Garnish their wages.
we're getting there.
No.
Transportation is, total transportation increase is 2.92%. I think we are making progress. We did a efficiency study over the course of this year for about $10,000. And what we determined as a result of that efficiency study is that it was 27% cheaper to own and operate your own transportation services in district. So, we have had a lot of, growing pains and bumps, going through that, but I think we are getting to a good place with, a stable driver pool finally, and
I was gonna ask you that.
yeah, I think we're, I think we're fully staffed or almost fully staffed up to 10. The consultant looked at things like route efficiency because we are unique that we're so rural with the, the back roads and the things that happen in the windstorms and things like that, about how we can be more efficient in our routes and cut down ride times for kids. And get our fleet. We just hired a new mechanic.
Yeah, no shit. That stole mine.
Now, Chris, I would be happy to share services with you.
Yeah, why can't we share services?
Yeah, why isn't it just one mechanic and you both use them?
Well, Andy was a DPW
Yeah.
Worker, and when when Pat left, there was an opening, Andy went and
Why we can't just-
moved into that slot. Now, in part, I think we've always maintained a separate bus mechanic. I think because there's a lot of reporting and requirements that go into that specifically. So you really need a person who's keyed into that to make sure, and we've had issues in the past
Oh,
with
yeah.
the state reporting, so you want to make sure that that really is a job in and of itself.
Yep.
And
And
they gotta report on everything.
I would be happy to share him as whatever you need plowing and whatever, and is this spirit of your.
Yeah, say this, they work closely
Yeah.
together up there. There's always been a good relationship, so there's we have a back and forth with equipment, so you don't have to buy, we don't have to buy something if you have it or vice
Correct.
versa. So they have a good.
Right at town garage, we just want a new day, we'll work together at the town garage.
Who is that?
Betty, new school, Jay, what do you think? Holy, holy.
Not my calculator.
If you need someone,
Get your calculator. out, shouldn't
Baby,
Let's
home.
see.
For the fire department.
Came right back.
They don't really have a mechanic for.
No.
No, farmer, John, he does a lot of their work over there. And I'm trying to remember John's last name, I'm drawing a blank, we use him as a fill-in plow driver in the winter.
We do share some of that.
We used to have Dean used to do the buses.
Using the word.
Continuing on.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
4 AM, I
what's
think, is when you have to get up.
Yeah.
But the brother.
Okay.
We transport to Ellis Tech, Killingley, Boag, North Tech, NFA, QMC, and Woodstock Academy, as well as our, DES and BMS. Grizzle comes off the books this year, so we're not gonna transport to Grizzle after this school year.
Okay, so no more
No more Grizzle.
Griswold.
Yep. Page 16. That is district wide. I'm happy to report we are at minus 1.24 for district wide. We have, deficit, we've cut 53,305 or 1.24%. And the drivers were certified wages, non-certified wages, benefits, and professional services. And tuition, right?
Big jump in intervention.
Page 17. Adult education, we are required, to maintain a program of adult classes and provide adult programs through cooperative agreement. We contract adult services through EastCon. The state of Connecticut reimburses a portion of the cost. The reimbursement is given to towns and budgeted as town revenue, although I am happy to report outside of this, for our summer school enrichment program last year, we piloted a pottery class for adults and it was a big hit. So they paid, we paid the teacher, and the attendees paid for their materials.
Was it pottery and wine?
I don't know if I can do that on campus.
You know,
Well,
brewing.
If
brewing
Sam
would
is,
be a
if
big
Sam
hit.
is the one teaching pottery, there's
Or
mine.
distilling.
We picked whatever the rate was, so 30 something, yeah.
An hour?
Yeah.
That's my major.
Pottery,
So much fun.
I could,
you wanna be a guest lecturer this summer?
I could throw a cot in my eyes closed.
All right.
We were also looking at offering more for students over the summer.
So, intervention, these are all grant funded. So 2 math interventionists funded by Title I and the general fund, so partially funded by general. 2 reading interventionists funded by Title I and read Title 6.
So we could, if they pull the title
Yep.
funding, we could lose 5 people.
We would lose our interventionist, but the title money is in legislation that, again, this would be a court battle, and the title is so crucial of a revenue stream. Maybe it happens, I don't see it happening. He's already said he's gonna move these, if he closes the department, he's gonna move these to other departments. So. It's the same with IDEA, right? You couldn't close that without having just a massive, lawsuit on your hands there. So, superintendent's office includes wages for 1.0 FTE, that'd be me, an administrative assistant. Fiscal services, Michelle, 0.7, and a 0.8 financial assistant, and a 0.5 FTE payroll clerk. And facility operations, custodial maintenance, building repairs. 1 director facility, 6.4 custodians, 1.1 maintainer. We did not fill that security officer this year. That revenue will be coming back to the town, for a total of 9.25.
Do we still use paychecks? No.
Hot lunch program is self-operated, but cannot carry student debt. We try whenever we can to collect outstanding fees from families. But we also don't want folks to give, there are avenues if kids are going hungry to get help with food, and we try that every year. So we try to recoup as much of that as we can, but the lunch program is flat funded, theoretically flat funded. Regular ed tuition, this is the tuition that we pay for non-special ed students attending high schools, and these are the high schools that we currently send to and grammar schools. Act Magnet, we have 4 students, Barrow STEM, 7 students at 39,000. So if I could pull 1 or 2 of those in, it would be a win for us at back to CES. 33 students at Ellis Tech, 8 students at Griswold, 6 in Killing Voag, 1 at the Marine Science Magnet in New London, 67 at NFA, Norwich Tech 35, Parish Hill 5, QMC 2, Winthrop STEM 1, Woodstock Academy 44. You can see that's a massive tuition bill, right, that we pay for our high school
Yeah.
kids. Yeah.
How much is in the budget for the hot lunch that you guys pick up?
So we just throw in, I think, like
$1,500, I think it was.
yeah, just to cover.
The page before,
Oh,
page
I was
16,
scrolling and I couldn't
page
find it.
16, just towards the bottom of the top. $1,500. Is the, I think you said last time, the food program is federally funded?
It is based on, national school lunch, which is then fed through the state, no pun intended. It is based on free and reduced lunch status of students.
Do we qualify for everybody to get meal? Or we don't qualify in this time?
We
And
are
obviously
just
everyone
about-
can't pay because we're paying.
We're just about at that threshold where they can fit, where you could be that way, but we're not enough in that threshold where we would be able to financially sustain the program. Giving everybody free meals.
Killing VOAG, isn't it VOAG free? No, we pay for killing, it's not free?
Not free.
I thought, I know the tests are, but I thought maybe VOAG was as well.
All right, and that brings us to the 19 of 20 pages, which is just our grant revenue, that we get from outside sources. The school mental health specialist at 59,000, that supports our behavior, techs, wages, mental health support, supports our summer school programming and ESY, our IDEA 611, 168, 865, special ed. IDEA 619, 14,000, special ed. School readiness is our preschool program and liaisons at 190. Yep. School readiness quality enhancement, 3,808 state.
Sorry.
No, it rhymes. Stay with it. Believe it or not, because we are rural, considered rural, we qualify for some pretty decent funding, which is a benefit for us. Griswold's not considered rural. Plainville is definitely not considered rural, but we are considered rural. So that's 42,000 right there for the small. Yeah, for the REIT. And then Title I is our big one. That's our interventionist at 113. Titles are all federal. Title II is professional development and learning opportunities, 14,000, and Title IV, 10,000. And cafe, school lunch, we talked about in the last page I have for folks.
Those are all state, aren't they?
Is the adult ed that we talked about, 14,500, 29 of town revenue. Our ECS, which is $4 million, 4,085, but projected to be cut to 3,800,53908 for 26. Although that is in, we talked about this at the beginning of the meeting, where that's going to go. There's some tug of war going on at the state level.
I got adult education being reduced also, by the way. Yeah.
So down to what?
13,195 in the proposed FY 26. And I've got a slightly different number from your 3.8. For the ECS, it's 3,879,064. 79064, a little bit more than what you had there.
Well, $24, it's in our favor.
It works.
Take it. So that's 363,346. That's in, you get in federal money.
No state that operates without federal money.
Oh, take anything you can,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
just saying that's a number when we're saving our extra monies from the general fund. We need to keep those things in mind.
that completes the 20-page packet.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for laying it out. Appreciate it.
Does anyone have any specific questions?
We can ask a few questions tonight, but we've got a section in the agenda next week for more questions.
You want to let the 20 pages percolate?
We're gonna have it
Yeah.
marinate a little bit,
Or you send Mike and then he'll send.
please, if you can. And, I mean, by the end of the week would be great. I think,
Yeah.
day before would be minimal, hopefully, you know.
Not the day before, because we gotta go.
Well, I mean, like a full 24-hour before,
What I'm saying is I'd like to see it by Friday.
if it could be,
So we can do. this
Absolutely.
over the weekend, because we're gonna get hit with his.
right, right.
Well,
I
Right.
don't have 20 pages.
but you got more questions.
Well, so, but again, we're gonna get his prezo and questions are the following week.
Yes.
So we're splitting because we're drained. You guys have done your thing.
Thanks, Sarah.
Hey, good night.
Yeah.
Did you want to comment on this table at all?
Oh, it just shows you the variance, right, in the, around the state, and so if you look at that, like Derg, you know, that's supposed to be your district, you know, economic reference group.
F.
We're an F, you know, the higher you are, the higher the average, you know, per capita household income, and we're an F, but like, I would argue that we're not similar to Fs, we're more similar geographically than I think we are to an F Derg. So it's really tough to make comparisons, you know, what an Enfield is to Canterbury.
Mhm.
That's what my
Yeah.
question was. I'm
Mhm.
looking at what we're surrounding
Yeah,
towns.
so they do it by, so like a Derg A was like a Darien, you know?
Yep.
And that's all that is, and you can kind of see where the numbers are falling in across from the states, so it would look like, you know. This is Danbury 21.5 area, which is numbers, yeah.
Ooh.
But I think it's good to put things, you know, and obviously every town and municipality is in a different situation, but it's just good to see where you fall in the overall mix and. what folks are represented with.
It's like that on the municipal side as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of towns are seeing that. You know, we've had an inflationary cycle for the past couple of years, which is going to work its way through. So a lot of towns are seeing the same thing. Yeah. We do the best we can. But there's been a lot of pressures, on us, particularly a lot of built-in costs that have,
Well, we know we don't want to move to
significant.
Basra if we have kids. What's up with that? They're
I
not
didn't
putting
see
any
that one.
money into their school.
No.
How can they do that with it, with
It's like,
comp alone
Well,
increasing?
you don't know, what the town side looks like, you know, the town side could just be so.
Bad?
Or, you know, it could be that their enrollment's just way down.
Way down,
Right.
yeah, that's true, yeah, because you don't have,
They could have just used a lot of ARPA money to build themselves up, and now they can just coast a little.
but in today's times, that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, it seems you've, come in at the inflation rate, which is,
You know?
it's coincidental.
That's not
Uh,
coincidental.
Well, but I mean, it's a little bit, you know, self-referential,
Like, kinda-
right?
We're lucky to not be coming in higher with the teacher contracts, because if you look statewide.
The labor was a
we
higher
could
portion.
really, Like, it was scary going into that negotiation, I'll just say that.
I think we did a good job on the labor side for,
Mhm.
yep. Came in under the average, so.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll close this portion. We've got, public comment or any comment. What'd you get?
I'd like to borrow my machine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The 12,
Is that the
906,
cable proof
920.
calculator? Yeah, that's, yeah, how trusted, yeah.
Cause I took the 12,906, 921. Plus.
See where you're at.
3.1%.
You take 426,753 divided by 12,906,921. What did you do?
Well, I just took the old one and added 3.31%.
Well, I suppose you could do it that way also. I get within a couple $100 because I
Yeah,
left
I was
off
gonna say
some
it's just a couple
precision.
$100, but the town.
It's
miles-
probably rounding from some
Yeah.
third decimal place on the percent or something.
It takes a lot to move a percentage point. We were doing that on the municipal budget. You drop $5,000-6,000 and you still, you don't move the needle. Yeah.
All righty.
They did one more trip.
Yeah.
Public comment or other comment?
She can, look, I'm not going there right now.
You want to check behind the books over there?
Yeah.
Try it.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I don't see anybody in
Thank
the
you very
Zoom
much.
anymore. We
Yeah,
outlasted
they gave up.
I just
yeah.
say everybody like fell asleep.
and nothing in the chat. All right, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved,
Jeanette made a motion. Do I have a second? Jason got that? All in favor, say aye.
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 what time?
It is 52. All righty. Next week. Bye now.